At the top scholars' banquet, the emperor got drunk and chose a son-in-law from among the examinees. Instead of picking the top scholar or the third-ranked, he chose me, a woman disguised as a man, ranked fourth. Your Majesty has a discerning eye. If brother you hadn't caught a cold on the day of the palace exam, Your Majesty might have named him the top scholar. The top scholar praised me with a smile, while the second and third-ranked scholars congratulated me in unison. I could only kneel in gratitude for the emperor's boundless grace, and wonder how such good fortune had befallen a humble commoner like me. But on the wedding night, seeing the princess's swollen belly, I finally understood. Turns out His Majesty wasn't seeking a son-in-law, he was looking for a cuckold. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. The bridal chamber was aglow with the flickering light of dragon and phoenix candles, casting an even more radiant glow on the bride whose eyes blazed with fury. Princess Huayao's bridal veil was half lifted. Clutching her abdomen with one hand, she sneered at me. What are you staring at? Did you really think such a windfall would just fall from the sky? This princess is of noble birth. Marrying a down-and-out like you is more than enough. If you know what's good for you, just focus on being my consort, and if I don't know what's good for me, I took a slight step forward. And she immediately retreated a step in alarm. The beaded curtain on her phoenix crown jingled as she stepped back. Huayaro pressed her lips together, her face coldly beautiful yet with moisture glistening in her eyes. This princess is the Empress's only daughter. The only reason you agreed to this marriage was to climb the social ladder through my status, wasn't it? What are you pretending to be noble about now? I had long heard that the third Princess Huayaro was spoiled and willful, but now I see she's nothing more than a paper tiger, fierce in appearance but weak inside. Recalling the expressions of the three top-ranked scholars when the drunken emperor pointed to arrange marriages, I took a deep breath. If even the young masters of noble families have caught wind of it, her pregnancy must be impossible to conceal any longer. Looking at her rounded belly, she must be at least 5 months along. What are you looking at me like that for? Huayaro leaned against the pillar behind her, straightening her neck to glare at me. Don't you dare think you can make things difficult for me. I'm not afraid of you. If you dare bully me, my crown prince brother will have your skin flayed. She defiantly raised her chin, tightening her grip on the wedding handkerchief in her hand. I chuckled softly and said to the page boy waiting outside the door, 13, prepare the horse. I'm going to the palace. Stop, you Shouju, what are you going to the palace for? Do you think my father married me off to you for nothing? Do you think he would uphold justice for you? I straightened my attire and gave her a light chuckle. If that's the case, surely His Majesty must have given your Highness some instructions, such as tempering this willful disposition of yours, and keeping this humble official in the bridal chamber. Originally, I had worried about my identity being exposed, so I had someone fabricate evidence of impotence. It's just a pity for this noble-born lady. Who would have thought two impostors would cross paths? Birds of a feather flock together. In that case, not going to weep before my kind father-in-law would be a great loss. I turned and walked away, leaving Huayaro stomping her feet and cursing behind me. You Shouju, to insult me is to insult the royal family's dignity. Father and the crown prince will never let you off for this. Come back here this instant. The commotion in the courtyard was loud, and as I swaggered out the door, palace servants immediately knelt in obeisance. On such a fine day, where might the imperial consort be heading? I stared at him with heavy-lidded eyes for a long moment. The young eunuch's forced smile began to falter. Adjusting the golden crown on my head, I sneered with undisguised mockery. What do you think? Where should I be going? I took a step to the left, and he immediately moved forward to block me. I went right, and he shifted right to obstruct me again. Royal son-in-law, today is the grand occasion of your union with the princess. I kicked him square in the shoulder. Get out. The little eunuch swallowed his threatening words as I kicked them back down his throat, trembling as he knelt and said, spare your anger, royal son-in-law. This slave spoke out of turn. Who dares make such a commotion here? The mansion bestowed by the emperor was in a decent location, though not the sort of neighborhood where official families typically resided. No doubt this was to prevent this turtle of a son-in-law from making a disgraceful scene. Seeing I wasn't an easy target, the waiting big fish took the bait. The Crown Prince's attendant came forward respectfully to kowtow. "Royal son-in-law, His Highness happens to be passing by and requests your presence for a word." The Crown Prince's carriage had been parked at the alley entrance for who knows how long. At first glance, it appeared rather unremarkable. The servant lifted the carriage curtain, releasing a wave of alcohol fumes mingled with the scent of cosmetics. Crown Prince Huachin, who had just attended a wedding banquet earlier, lounged lazily against the carriage cushions, his robe hung wide open, the black brocade embroidered with 5-clawed hornless dragons nearly slipping down to his waist. A trail of red marks stretched from the neck down to the chest. It perfectly matched his rakish and outrageous demeanor. "My, what a temper you have, brother-in-law." Huachin toyed with the hairpin in his hand, his frivolous expression unable to conceal the ferocity in his sharp eyes. "Getting so angry on such a joyous occasion, it's hardly worth it. Your Highness jests. This humble official has only today learned that great joy and sorrow are but a moment apart." I lowered my eyes, my face full of disappointment. "I've long heard of His Majesty's generosity, how he often answers the palace servants' questions. Though Xiuzhu came from humble origins, there was a question weighing on his mind that he couldn't resolve, and he intended to seek an answer at the palace." Huachin waved his hand and laughed. "Brother-in-law, don't be impatient. Let me guess, none of the top 3 scholars from this year's imperial examination have been assigned official posts yet. Is that what you wish to inquire about?" My expression shifted slightly, the anger on my face diminishing somewhat. Seeing me like this, Huachin straightened his posture a bit. "None may enter the Grand Secretariat without first serving in the Hanlin Academy. My brother-in-law's literary talent is extraordinary. And the top 3 candidates this time are all widely learned. Following His Majesty's intention, you gentlemen will all remain in the Hanlin Academy for some tempering." Seeing my silence, he continued, "You, like the 2nd and 3rd top examinees, will be appointed as compilers." This wasn't what I wanted, yet I could vaguely discern the Emperor's remorse. "Thank you for your Majesty's favor, but such an exception may be improper. I've heard that Minister Chen of the Ministry of Justice is to be transferred to the position of Vice Minister. I wonder who will fill this vacancy." Huachin gave me a deep, meaningful glance. My brother-in-law is quite thoughtful in his considerations. "Appointments and dismissals are determined by His Majesty the Emperor. I shall report this to my father first. You may return and await news. Brother-in-law, don't waste a single moment of this spring night with my imperial sister." When I returned to the mansion, several panic-stricken maids were guarding outside the bridal chamber. At the sight of me, they looked as if granted amnesty. Inside the room, a woman's sobbing could still be heard. "My good prince, just admit it. Would you not be letting down His Majesty's earnest efforts? But in my heart, there is only Brother Ling. That you Xiuzhu cannot compare to him in the slightest. Ah, my prince, if His Majesty were to find out you drove the consort away, who knows what would?" "Your Highness, Madam Nanny, the imperial son-in-law has returned." The maidservant promptly interrupted the conversation between mistress and servant. As I pushed the door open, Huayaro hurriedly wiped her tear-streaked face. "Everyone, leave us." I sat down at the table in good spirits. The Crown Prince gave me what I wanted. Naturally, I wouldn't treat his sister poorly. "Since your Highness is with child, you should sleep in the marital bed. Please have a bed set up for me in the outer room." Nanny, after 3 months, will simply say His Highness is with child, and I'll move to the East Wing. Having made arrangements, I went to the outer room. A maidservant followed me in. I waved my hand. "No need, I don't require any attendance." The room fell silent at once, with only the faint sounds of maids coming and going, with so many eyes around. I was still pondering how to conceal my identity when suddenly I spotted Huayao peeking around the screen. "Ah, you haven't wiped it yet." I could feel the veins on my forehead throbbing violently. "Your Highness, what matter do you wish to discuss?" The person paced back and forth outside the screen. After a long silence, they finally spoke. "About the child. Thank you. To be honest, this child has only been a benefit to me." "Thus," I replied softly. "It's merely a transaction, no need to thank me. However, there is one more thing your Highness should know." "What?" "I will treat this child as my own, which means its father can only be me. In the early days of our marriage, I dutifully played the role of a good consort. On the day of the bride's return visit, the palace hosted a family banquet. The heavy skirt concealed Huayao's abdomen, seeing her rosy complexion. The emperor was in excellent spirits and summoned me along with the crown prince for a stroll in the imperial garden. Our Yarrow has been somewhat spoiled since childhood. As her consort, you must show her extra patience in daily life. The empress and I have only this one daughter. If she suffers any grievance, I would have no face to meet her mother in the afterlife. I replied with utmost reverence. Her Highness is of noble birth. A little indulgence is hardly amiss. The emperor looked pleased. The Ministry of Justice is a place of hardship, but tempering there will surely forge greatness. Xiuzhu, do not disappoint our expectations. I hastily bowed in gratitude. The crown prince, ever the playboy, casually plucked a flower and toyed with it. Only after the emperor had left did he slowly flash me a smile. Congratulations, brother-in-law, on getting your wish. I owe it all to His Majesty and your Highness's favor. He smiled as he brought the peony blossom to his nose and inhaled. The stage seems set. Come along, brother-in-law, let's go take a look. Following Hua Qin's gaze, I saw the luxurious procession of palace consorts in the distance. It turned out the imperial noble consort had also brought her entourage to admire the flowers. The scent of face powder, far stronger than the fragrance of flowers, drifted into my nostrils from afar, accompanied by the continuous tinkling laughter of women. Someone jested, "Your Majesty truly has an eye for talent. The imperial son-in-law is not only handsome in appearance, but also treats Yao Yarrow exceptionally well. The consort mother speaks truly. Third brother-in-law is more than just handsome. I've heard he's an extraordinarily rare man of great magnanimity. Indeed, third sister insists on being first in everything. Only a man with a heart as vast as the ocean like third brother-in-law is worthy of being an imperial son-in-law." The flower branch in the crown prince's hand suddenly snapped. Hua Yarrow's voice trembled with rage. "Who is she? How dare you spread rumors about me? Third sister, please calm your anger. Elevena doesn't know what she said wrong. That's what everyone in the palace is saying. Sister is bold and decisive, and the imperial consort is magnanimous enough to sail a boat in his belly." Hua she kept retreating as she spoke, accidentally bumping into me as I stepped forward. The surroundings fell into a sudden silence. I flashed a smile at the woman before me, whose face was gradually flushing red. "I never imagined the palace would praise this humble official and your highness so highly. I am truly overwhelmed with gratitude. Did you see that, crown prince brother?" That old hag's face turned green with rage, and Hua she acting like she's never seen a man before, even getting a nosebleed. Hua Yarrow sneered in disdain, "You're speaking more and more improperly. 1 month of house arrest when we return to the estate. Nanny Yang, make a note of it." An acknowledgement came from outside the carriage. The crown prince expressionlessly tossed the flower in his hand into her arms. "Brother crown prince, I just started feeling better, and you can't stand to see me happy." The crown prince gave me another once-over. "Speaking of feeling better, you should thank your handsome consort for that." Hua Yarrow fanned herself with a round fan as she gazed out the window. "He's got a face blessed by the heavens. If I'm to thank anyone, it should be the heavens themselves." Half a month later, I was ordered to take up my post at the Ministry of Justice. Every position in the Ministry of Justice was lucrative, and though the rank of a secretary was not high, it still held some real power. Originally, a second-tier jincha being assigned as a secretary in one of the 6 ministries was only to be expected. But I heard this position was originally reserved for someone else. Moreover, vague rumors related to Hua Yarrow began circulating in the capital. Whether it was former classmates or current colleagues, their gazes toward me carried a hint of strangeness. 3 months after the wedding, rumors of the princess's pregnancy were predictably spread. Due to my outstanding performance, I was promoted to the position of Yuan Weilang. He managed to push aside Chen Sheng, the previously promoted vice director. After that, I earned the nickname Yu the 100 Tolerant. The name wasn't half bad. Top-tier scholars were too proud, and scions of noble families were far from stooping to becoming sons-in-law of cuckolds just to secure official positions. This just happened to benefit me, Yu Byron, who had nothing to my name. With the Ministry of Justice constantly bustling with affairs, I never put on airs as the emperor's son-in-law. Day after day, I handled cases with diligence, always leaving some room for leniency when dealing with matters. Over time, I ended up making friends with many colleagues. The left vice minister invited me for drinks several times, patting my shoulder cheerfully. Since brother you joined us, we've had much less trouble in our daily affairs. When next year's evaluation comes, this foolish elder will surely have the minister put in a good word for you. I clinked cups with him, smiling. Then I must thank brother Yi for your consideration. In those few months, my ambition to climb higher became known to all. Many were willing to offer this imperial son-in-law a ladder to the clouds when the tide was favorable, except for Chen Sheng, who had been transferred back to oversee affairs. He was inherently upright and couldn't tolerate the slightest injustice in his eyes, offending many young masters from noble families. If not for being a descendant of the Empress's maternal clan, he would have long been exiled to who knows where. Now his superior has become me, which means cleaning up his messes and settling his bad debts has also fallen to me. I had just arrived at the Yamen today and hadn't even taken a sip of hot tea when someone came rushing in with urgent news. Your Honor, something terrible has happened. Magistrate Chen is about to throw the second young master of the Shu family into prison. When I hurried to the scene, that second young master Shu was sitting boldly in the interrogation hall. He gave Chen Sheng a smug, knowing smile. Magistrate Chen, you can't convict someone based solely on one-sided testimony. A man of my standing, Xu Zhuoyun, could have any woman I desire. Why would I resort to violence with some fishmonger's daughter? Last night I was drinking with Brother Chu at the Flying Crane Pavilion. If you don't believe me, summon witnesses to testify, Chen Sheng said coldly. Answer whatever I ask, young Master Shu, that's all. Both sides had their own versions of the story. It all started when a fisherman and his daughter accused Xu Zhuoyun of forcibly taking the girl. Naturally, Xu Zhuoyun denied it and instead accused the two of slander. The fishmonger's daughter, unable to bear the humiliation, dashed her head against the courtroom floor and died. The girl's blood splattered onto the official document personally recorded by Chen Sheng. He forcibly detained Xu Zhuoyun on charges of contempt of court. In other words, he brought back a living ancestor for me. The Shu family steward brought along the young nobleman and dancing girl who had been drinking with Xu Zhuoyun the previous night to plead their master's case. All witnesses were present. As for the old fisherman's side, there was only his family's testimony. Not even a single piece of material evidence could be produced. Seeing Xu Zhuoyun about to lose his temper on the spot and go to appeal to the minister, I quickly scolded Chen Sheng, who was full of indignation. This case is full of doubts, and I believe it still needs further investigation. If you know it requires further investigation, why detain young Master Shu? I stepped forward with a cupped hand salute and said gently, perhaps the fishmonger woman mistook someone else for you, which has wronged young Master Shu. Though Magistrate Chen may be somewhat quick-tempered, his heart is always with the common people. In the heat of the moment, he offended young Master Shu. I beg for your generous forgiveness. Xu Zhuoyun narrowed his eyes at me for a long moment while Steward Shu whispered something in his ear. Only then did he put on a smile. Since the imperial son-in-law has spoken, I shall let this matter rest. I only hope Lord Chen will be more cautious in the future. In the capital, few are as accommodating as I am. He strutted out of the magistrate's office with his nose in the air. Chen Sheng stared at me with a pale face for a moment before grabbing my sleeve. In the side courtyard, the white-haired old man held the girl tightly in his arms, desperately wiping the blood from her temple. How many women has Shua ruined over these years? This is hardly the first. Yu Xiuzhu, I know you have lofty ambitions, but will you really be an accomplice to such unconscionable acts? You also come from humble origins, yet now that you've gained His Majesty's favor, have you joined forces with those villains? Magistrate Chen, I advise you to weigh your words carefully. I shook off his hand and straightened my sleeves. Since when has judgment been passed without evidence? How can one convict without proof? If everyone relied on mere words to solve cases, how many wrongful convictions would plague the world? I summoned the constable and slipped him some silver pieces. The weather is getting hot, let him bury his daughter soon. The old fisherman wouldn't take my money. He dragged his daughter's remains to the gates of the government office, shouting day after day, cursing the world where officials shield each other, begging the heavens to open their eyes and grant him justice. One day as I stepped out, those few tales of broken silver struck me square on the forehead. Corrupt official, blind and worthless corrupt official, heavens above. Officials who don't serve the people, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Open your eyes and see this injustice. The old fisherman was quickly restrained by others. I took out a handkerchief to cover my forehead and said softly, "Enough, let him go." All the townsfolk had already learned of this matter. If the authorities resort to force again, they might stir up public resentment. As soon as the constable loosened his grip, an elderly woman hurried forward to cover the old fisherman's mouth. "Your Honor, please forgive him. Considering he's just lost his daughter, don't hold it against him. Go quickly, old he. Think about how the entire Liu family, dozens of them, disappeared. You don't want to live, but what about your brothers?" That day after leaving the Yamen, I saw a carriage waiting at the gate. The carriage curtain lifted, revealing the crown prince's overly delicate features. I heard my brother-in-law has suffered grievances. "I've come specially to invite you for some relaxation." The carriage was relatively spacious, filled with the imperial dragon's incense reserved for the crown prince. I tried to sit farther away, yet the crown prince scrutinized me without hesitation. My brother-in-law is truly kind-hearted. To have spared that troublemaker, I smiled helplessly and said, "It's just a tactical retreat. If he makes trouble again next time, I won't let him off either." The carriage stopped at the Drunken Blossom Pavilion. The most bustling brothel in the capital was closed to the public today, reserved exclusively for the entertainment of high-ranking officials and nobles. As the crown prince led me inside, a young master embracing a beautiful woman immediately called out. I was wondering why the second master arrived so late today. Turns out he was guiding an immortal servant from the Bodhisattva's throne. The crown prince tilted his head slightly, tapping the scabbed wound between my brows with his folding fan. "My dear brother-in-law was beaten up by someone. In my opinion, the blessing of serving the Bodhisattva shall be bestowed upon you next time," he said. The crowd burst into laughter, teasing in unison. "So this is the famed imperial son-in-law. We've long heard of your great name." After half a year in the capital, this was my first time attending such a banquet. Silks and perfumes, a world of wine and roses. The girl beside me kept pressing herself against me. I quickly caught her hand as it crept onto my shoulder. "Jiyu-san, look at the girl you've chosen. She can't even catch the royal son-in-law's eye." Shu Zhuoyun, his clothes slightly disheveled, sat down beside me with a wine jug in hand. Incidentally, he squeezed out the girl sitting nearby. Ever since I first met the imperial son-in-law, I felt an instant connection. Today, hearing that the imperial son-in-law was injured because of me, I am endlessly grateful. I'll punish myself with 3 cups of wine. Please don't disdain them. He boldly slung his arm over my shoulder. The stench of alcohol wafted into my face. I held my breath and leaned away. "You're too kind, young Master Shu. If you don't mind, you may call me Xiuzhu. Then I shall call you Brother Yu from now on." He grinned drunkenly at me. "Chuanyang, quickly drag this drunkard away. Don't let him corrupt my future brother-in-law." The crown prince tapped the table, and Shu Zhuoyun was helped to his feet. He glanced at the courtesan, then looked at me. "Does your esteemed family have any unmarried sisters? If so, you must tell me so I can take them as concubines." His words were utterly preposterous, yet no one present seemed offended, as if it were meant to be. The banquet ended late into the night. The crown prince happened to escort me back to my residence. With my low alcohol tolerance, the slight jostling of the carriage proved quite soporific. I simply closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. Suddenly, someone unexpectedly pinched my earlobe. The crown prince had drawn near at some point, his eyes showing no trace of drunkenness. "So you really did pierce your ears? I thought I must have been mistaken." Could it be that my brother-in-law truly served as an immortal servant beneath the Bodhisattva's throne? I sobered up instantly and calmly explained, "Your Highness jests. This humble official was born prematurely and frail since childhood. My mother, heeding the physician's advice, had my ears pierced to ward off convulsions." The crown prince lowered his eyelids, leaving it unclear whether he believed me or not. "So that's how it is. I thought my brother-in-law was like that female imperial son-in-law from the storybooks, traveling 1,000 miles to the capital just for revenge." "Your Highness jests." I shook my head with a smile and avoided his hand. The crown prince's thin lips parted slightly. The carriage came to an abrupt halt. Before the coachman could announce their arrival, a clear female voice drifted through the night air. Who comes home at this ungodly hour? Surely it can't be my royal brother who took his brother-in-law to the pleasure quarters, nor my drunken brother-in-law who's lost himself in the arms of courtesans. A sudden chill crept up my spine. The carriage door swung open, revealing Hua Yarrow with her heavily pregnant belly. Her gaze burned intensely as she looked at us. Does Zuehua Lu's wine taste better than the palace's? Why didn't you bring me some to try, brother Crown Prince? The utterly shameless Crown Prince actually rubbed the tip of his nose. Next time, I'll bring you some next time. I have matters to attend to. I must take my leave first. Brother-in-law, do take care of yourself. That damned brother-in-law ran away, leaving me and Hua Yarrow staring at each other in dismay. It's so late, why hasn't your highness retired for the night? Hua Yarrow glared at me, one hand resting on her belly. How can I sleep when my own brother and my husband are out carousing together in pleasure houses? Besides, aren't you injured? I belatedly touched the spot between my eyebrows. It's nothing serious now. Nothing serious. My foot. Hua Yarrow snorted coldly. You're already drinking courtesan's wine, how could it possibly be serious? Father still praises you for rising from humble origins through diligence, little knowing all men are the same, wealth and power corrupt them all. This time it's my fault. I offered my sincere apology. For one, she was nearing childbirth, I shouldn't have burdened her with such worries. Secondly, the consorts drinking at brothels had tarnished her reputation. Hua Yarrow, however, froze for a moment before turning her face away with a flick of her sleeve. As long as you admit your mistake. I deliberately slowed my pace to follow behind her. Not long after, Hua Yarrow spoke softly again. Though ours is a marriage in name only, I cannot bear to see you stray down the wrong path. You didn't reach this point easily. Shouju, I don't want you picking up the ways of those wastrels. What kind of man finds pride in drinking and consorting with courtesans? True capability lies in making such women unnecessary in this world. These past few months, I've gotten along quite well with Hua Yarrow, though she can be a bit spoiled. Her nature isn't bad. The maids she brought from the palace are all loyal, never treating her with disrespect despite her being pregnant out of wedlock. Today, she considered things for my sake. I returned the favor by finding excuses to remove those restless spies. After that, no matter when I returned to the residence, Nanny Yang would always bring me hot soup and snacks, though household matters were smooth. There were still troublesome matters waiting for me outside the estate. On this day, I went hunting at Shu Zhuoyun's invitation. The old fisherman had somehow gotten wind of the news. He suddenly burst out from the woods, brandishing a firewood cleaver and slashing at Shu Zhuoyun's horse. You damned old fool. Have you lost your mind? The startled horse reared, and Shu Zhuoyun, unable to keep his balance, tumbled to the ground instantly. You heartless scoundrel who preys on the weak. Today you shall pay with your life for my daughter. The old fisherman raised his firewood axe and swung it down. Shu Zhuoyun, having fallen from his horse and injured, rolled on the ground in a desperate attempt to dodge. Guards, where the hell is everyone? Ching Hong, brother Yu. I rushed to the scene upon hearing the commotion, only to find Shu Zhuoyun with a knife wound in his thigh. In the prime of his life, he shouldn't have struggled against a withered old man. He pressed his foot hard against the fisherman's chest, his face twisted in rage as he cursed. Damn you, what does your daughter's suicide have to do with me? Blame her wretched fate. For being born into a family like yours, a whole nest of ungrateful wretches, turning down gold and silver just to throw your lives away. If your daughter had obediently let me have my way, the young master might have kept her as his mistress. Beast, you vile beast, may you die a wretched death. Brother Shu, I immediately dismounted and ran over. You mustn't put weight on that leg, go see a doctor quickly, or you might damage the bones and tendons. Shu Zhuoyun's dark expression softened slightly when he saw me. Good brother, help me for a moment. As I supported him, Shu Zhuoyun kicked the old fisherman resentfully. This damned old, daring to commit violence in broad daylight. Brother Shu, leave him to me. I'll make sure he never troubles your sight again. Shu Zhuoyun turned to look at me, half his body pressing against mine. My dear brother, I knew at first glance you were a kindred spirit, then I'll leave it to you to handle. I chuckled without even glancing at the fisherman. instructing the young attendant nearby. 13. Take him away. I'll help Brother Shu out first. We had barely taken 2 steps when we heard a furious roar. Die, you corrupt official. The Yu residence was in utter chaos that day. Hua Yarrow was frightened by the blood on my arm and immediately went into labor from the shock. The Crown Prince summoned a full courtyard of imperial physicians to attend to her. Inside the chamber, the princess labored in childbirth while basins of blood were carried out one after another. I stood in the side courtyard, looking at 13, whose eyes were red with tears, and ruffled her hair. Apply the medicine quickly, lest too many eyes see and something goes wrong. She wiped her tears while applying medicine to my wound. Huayao's due date was just around these few days. By the time I finished packing and stepped out, the Crown Prince was still sipping tea in the outer hall. Seeing me, he suddenly furrowed his brows. Not a single imperial physician came to see you. How badly are you hurt? I shook my head with a faint smile. Just a scratch. Really, I've already applied medicine. Have you sent someone to find a wet nurse? Things happened so suddenly, I fear the one we previously arranged won't be available now. The Crown Prince caught my glance and immediately understood my meaning. Hua Yarrow claimed it was a premature birth to the outside world, having made all necessary contingency preparations. He nodded, then frowned. I've already sent people to search. The palace matrons have arrived too, so you needn't worry. First sit down and tend to your injuries. Hua Yarrow's screams came one after another. At times she called for her mother, at others for her brother. In the end, she wept, saying she couldn't hold on any longer, begging me to take good care of the child. I took a sip of tea as the midwife rushed out in a panic, saying, Your Highness the Crown Prince, my Lord Consort, the princess might. I rose and entered the delivery room. Royal son-in-law, the stench of blood here is strong. You shouldn't. I had never seen Hua Yarrow looking so haggard. Her face was sallow, her entire body drenched as if submerged in water. How similar it was to my mother's final moments. She looked at me, reaching out incessantly. Come here, come here. I firmly grasped her slender arm. Take care of my child for me. Promise me. I leaned close to her ear and whispered, if you survive, I'll tell you where the child's father is. Huayao's eyes suddenly widened. I signaled the imperial physician to administer the acupuncture, then took the jade pendant hanging from my neck and pressed it into her hand. My mother also had a difficult labor when giving birth to me. My grandmother sought this piece jade for her, and she delivered me safely afterward. You are a princess, of royal blood. No evil can touch you. Not only that, the Empress and my mother will watch over you from heaven, and me, my fate is strong enough. No one can take you away. Hua Yarrow wept. She held my hand, tears falling like golden beans. If this child ever fails to be filial to you in the future, I swear I'll skin it alive. After a day and a night, Hua Yarrow and her daughter were both safe and sound. When I stepped outside reeking of blood, the Crown Prince was still there. Surprisingly, he looked at me with a complicated gaze for a long moment before saying in a hoarse voice, You've worked hard, just doing my duty. Upon hearing that I had been blessed with a daughter, regardless of the rumors outside, the household still received many congratulatory gifts. The most lavish one came from the Shu family. The hierarchy of nobility in the capital is strictly defined. Apart from the imperial Hua clan, the 4 great families Shu, Feng, Qian, and Chu hold dominant power. The Shu family's patriarch served as imperial tutor to 3 generations of emperors. And now the young Shu Shaofu has been assisting the Crown Prince for many years. Since Imperial Consort Shu took charge of the 6 imperial palaces, the Shu family has quietly emerged as the foremost among the noble houses. Rumors say that beyond the capital, the Shu family's word carries more weight than the emperor's. I merely suffered an injury for the 2nd young master of the Shu family, yet received gifts nearly on par with imperial rewards. I made a special visit to express my gratitude. Xu Zhuoyun personally came outside the estate to welcome me. He limped on his leg, I injured my hand, and when we met, we both smiled. Dear brother, how did you know I've been so terribly bored these past few days? Do you like that longevity lock? It was originally meant for my sister, prepared by our grandmother. Pity our family only had sons, she had no one to give it to. So I claimed it for you instead. The smile on my face faded slightly as I replied politely, she likes it. The little one was delighted to wear it, lost in thought, he patted my shoulder. Brother, there's no need to rush. Even the imperial family cannot forbid a man from taking concubines. In a few days, I'll find you some beauties to help you expand your family line. I smiled sheepishly and said, thank you so much. Second brother Shu Zhuoyun insisted on hosting a banquet in my honor. Upon hearing of my visit, Madame Shu was also quite warm and welcoming. Her eyes widened the moment she saw me. I've long heard that your majesty has gained a son-in-law of both talent and beauty, truly living up to his reputation. You flatter me too much. Madam, I bowed humbly. She smiled and said, I've heard it all from Zhuoyun. If you hadn't stepped in to block that knife for him in time, that troublemaker might have succeeded. You're a good child. Thanks to you, Madame Shu hosted a banquet, where I also met several members of the Shu family's main household, including the family head, imperial tutor Shu Zhixian. As I hadn't entered the Hanlin Academy, I didn't often meet with him or his disciples, but Shu Zhixian was a great scholar of our time, someone far beyond the reach of a humble student like me. Even with the empty title of royal son-in-law, he wouldn't think much of me. My face flushed crimson as I tried to offer a toast, only to spill the wine by accident. Master, please forgive this student. Oh dear. Father, look at my worthy brother here, usually so quick with his tongue, yet now he's struck dumb in your presence. It must be because you're too harsh with those students of yours. You rascal, spouting nonsense again, Madame Shu scolded with a laugh, then turned to me with a gentle smile. This isn't a school. My lord consort should feel at home here. Shu Zhixian stroked his magnificent beard while looking at me and laughed heartily. I heard the consort once studied at White Crane Academy. Did you mistake my cousin for me? I lowered my head with a smile. This humble student is ashamed, always angering teacher Shu. So my worthy brother was actually my uncle's student. That man has a peculiar temper and rarely takes disciples. Shu Zhuoyun looked at me with shining eyes. Father, mother, look at the fate that binds our family to this virtuous brother. Why not take him as our adopted son? To fulfill the bond of brotherhood between us, he sat down beside me, and Madame Shu studied us carefully. Husband, look quickly. Their brows and eyes truly bear a threefold resemblance. Truly remarkable. Could we really have been brothers in a past life? Shu Zhuoyun joked. Mother, my eyes and brows resemble father's. So doesn't that mean brother you looks like father too? Not at all, not at all. I'm hardly worthy of such an honor. I was about to decline when Shu Zhixian solemnly asked, where in Jiangju are you from? Are your parents still with us? I shook my head with a bitter smile. I am from Chenyang, Jiangju. My mother passed away from illness, and my father, I don't know where he is, from Chenyang. Do you follow your mother's surname? Indeed. I stared straight at him, my eyes filled with confusion. Has the young master ever been to Chenyang? Shu Zhixian shook his head. I've traveled to Jiangju, but I've never been to Chenyang. They say Jiangju produces beauties. No wonder my worthy brother is as handsome as Pan'an. Madame Shu laughed aloud. Look at my son. His eyes are only for beauties. He can't compare to the imperial son-in-law's accomplishments. You flatter me, madam. Since ancient times, beauties have matched heroes. Brother Shu is a man of exceptional talent. It's only natural for fair ladies to favor him. That was some fine flattery. Madame Shu was pleased, and Shu Zhuoyun was even more satisfied. When the banquet concluded, Shu Zhixian accepted my ceremonial gifts as his disciple. Young one, I've heard a little about your story. From Jiangju to the capital is 1,000 miles, yet you've remained so diligent and sensible. To have such a disciple is this teacher's fortune. He steadied me, carefully studying my features. If Zhuoyun ever bullies you, just come to your teacher. I'll teach him a lesson for you. After joining the Shu family's faction, my career in the Ministry of Justice soared like a rising star. In just 1 year, I was promoted yet again. The Shu family valued me highly, and the crown prince often took me out for drinks. Even the emperor praised me as a rare and worthy son-in-law. The nickname Yu the 100 Enduring had evolved from a mocking epithet to one of respect. During idle moments, I'd overhear my constables muttering, "No cross, no crown. Our lord can endure cuckoldry, raise another man's child, humor his brother-in-law, and even tolerate that lecher Shu. If he ascends to the minister's position, it's nothing less than he deserves." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, momentarily unable to tell which insult cut deeper. At year's end came my capping ceremony. Hua Yaro took charge of organizing grand celebrations for me. Xu Zhuoyun had long since sent the courtesy name Xu Zhixuan had thought of for me, on the eve of my birthday. Both the Eastern Palace and the Shu residence sent 2 ceremonial caps. The Crown Prince favored extravagance, gifting me a jewel-encrusted purple gold crown. Xu Zhiyan presented a plain yet elegant white jade crown, said to be crafted from sacred jade of the western regions, priceless and rare. Hua Yaro tried each one on me in turn, while her daughter, Changle, circled around me excitedly. "Daddy, Daddy." I held her in my arms, and she reached out to touch my hair crown. Hua Yaro sighed helplessly. "You little rascal," I chuckled softly. "Whichever one my little treasure picks, Daddy will wear." The child grabbed the most eye-catching purple gold crown, and I glanced up at Hua Yaro. "Let's go with this one." Everything proceeded in an orderly manner, except that my courtesy name remained undecided for a long time. Xu Zhiyan revised it again and again, still unsatisfied with the name he had chosen. Xu Zhuoyun made several trips, complaining to me about it, even at my coming-of-age ceremony. "He wasn't this solemn, such favoritism, second brother. The master merely pities me for being orphaned, that's why he shows me more consideration." Xu Zhuoyun shot me a glare. "There are countless orphans in this world, how could he possibly pity them all?" I followed him to the Shu residence, where Xu Zhiyan was in the study selecting calligraphy characters for me. Xu Zhuoyun remarked sourly, "Father, your disciple who's more like a son has arrived." Xu Zhiyan set down his brush, and I stepped forward to hand him a handkerchief to wipe his hands. "If you were half as considerate as Xiuzhu, I might age more slowly," he said. I watched as he crossed out the words on the paper and shook my head with a light chuckle. "Sir, there's no need to trouble yourself over my name. I've already decided what to call myself. Let it be by Ren, 100 forbearances forge strength." I quite like this courtesy name. The Shu father and son's expressions froze momentarily, and Xu Zhixian let out a long sigh. "You poor child, you've suffered so much." On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, a heavy snow fell. Xu Zhiyan had intended to personally place the capping crown upon me. Unexpectedly, the emperor himself arrived. In recent years, the emperor's health has been declining, and most court affairs have been handled by the crown prince. Unexpectedly, despite his illness, he managed to personally perform the capping ceremony for me. "Your Majesty, no matter." The emperor's movements were slow, and his voice was very soft. "You have treated Yao and Changle well, and for this, we are grateful. We are willing to grant you a promise. Xiuzhu, should you ever need anything, you need only ask us or the crown prince." I was about to bow in thanks when suddenly a servant rushed in with urgent news. "Your Majesty, Your Highness, trouble, there's a young lady at the gate claiming to be Master Shu's long-lost daughter. She's come to acknowledge her kinship." A woman dressed in white knelt properly in the courtyard. "Forgive me, esteemed lords." This humble woman had no other choice but to disrupt the coming-of-age banquet of the imperial son-in-law. I had gone to the Shu residence seeking an audience, but the servants refused to believe me and even called me a beggar trying to swindle them. She introduced herself as Xu Nianji, a native of Chenyang in Jiangju. Her mother passed away early, leaving her only a jade pendant. After making inquiries everywhere, she learned it was the token of the Shu family. Coupled with the fact that the Shu family's young master had once traveled to Jiangju, she staked everything on going to the capital to find her father. Xu Zhiyan could no longer remain seated. Outrageous. He slammed the table and stood up, glancing at the tearful orphan girl before turning his gaze to me across the table. "That jade pendant of mine was lost years ago. Why should I believe your one-sided claim? Father, I truly am your daughter. If you don't believe me, let's test our blood. If I'm not truly your child, I'll die without regret." "Pa, who do you think you are? You're not worthy of a blood test with my father. I see you've come prepared. Who knows what underhanded tricks you might pull." "Ahem." The emperor coughed lightly. "Minister Shu, there's no need for haste. This matter cannot be resolved in a short while. Let us detain her for now and deal with it another day." "Your Majesty speaks wisely." I stepped forward and said, "Even past events can be investigated. Rest assured, sir, I will immediately send someone to Jiangju to thoroughly uncover this girl's background. Whether it's a pearl or a fish eye, I will surely give you all an answer." Xu Zhiyan had already regained his composure. After locking eyes with me for a moment, he nodded and said, "Very well." That very night, I sent someone to Jiangju. The next day, Xu Jian personally came to the Ministry of Justice and told me about the incident of losing the jade pendant years ago. I naturally believe you, sir, but with so many eyes watching, if we don't find a reasonable explanation, it would damage the Xu family's reputation. Xu Jian nodded in satisfaction. Have you managed to uncover any leads? What kind of path is the gentleman seeking? We looked at each other for a moment before he let out a sigh. To be honest, when I went to Jiangju back then, I did meet a woman who captured my heart. She was as beautiful as flowers and the moon, but she already had someone she loved. She didn't want my jade pendant, so naturally I couldn't force it upon her. It wasn't until I boarded the ship back to the capital that I realized the pendant was missing. Who would have thought it would lead to such a baffling daughter appearing out of nowhere? I nodded with a soft sigh. Perhaps some admirer of yours picked it up, leading your daughter to misunderstand. Xu Jian stroked his long beard. Speaking of which, you do bear some resemblance to that woman. My eyes widened in shock. Sir, have you met my mother? Was your mother named Yu Xiuwen? It's my mother, sir. I excitedly grasped his hand. So you really knew my mother? It's just a pity she... What happened to her? Auntie said my mother's mind became confused when she was pregnant with me. She recognized no one, and no one knew who my real father was. Xu Jian sighed repeatedly. Accursed fate. All accursed fate. Only you, poor child, have suffered so. After seeing Xu Jian off, Xu Zhuoyun arrived. He found me still poring over case files and taking notes. He leaned back in his chair idly. Since everything has been made clear to my father, why bother investigating that female swindler? In my opinion, just kill her and be done with it, to avoid future complications. Second brother Xu, this is the Ministry of Justice. Xu Zhuoyun quickly put on an apologetic smile when he saw my stern expression. Look at her, does she resemble anyone from the Xu family at all? If you were my real younger brother, even if my father refused to acknowledge you, I'd do it for him. I smiled at him. Second brother Xu, you really know how to joke. A month later, those who had gone to Jiangju returned. 13 shed her disguise and followed me into the East Wing room. I quickly skimmed through the information she had gathered. Keep a close watch on Xu Nianji. The next day, Xu Nianji committed suicide in prison out of guilt. Xu Zhuoyun came cheerfully to congratulate me on not having to work late on the case anymore. I poured him a cup of tea. Still need to go through the formalities. His Majesty has ordered me to give an account of this, Xu Zhuoyun said dismissively. Just pass it down to the subordinates to handle. Rest assured, we definitely won't miss the master's birthday celebration. Clearing his reputation earlier can be considered as giving him a birthday gift. As Xu Zhuoyun spoke, his gaze fell upon my ears. I heard that in your childhood, you were frail, which is why you had your ears pierced to ward off the wind-induced illness. These were words I had privately spoken to the Crown Prince, yet Xu Zhuoyun casually brought it up without hesitation. I nodded. What a pity that is. He chuckled softly. 2 days later, I submitted the completed case file to the Golden Hall. Before leaving the office, I heard that the Crown Prince had summoned me. Yu Xiuzhu, you've gone mad. The thick case file was thrown in front of me. Hua Qin glared. Guillotine with my own hands. Will the world understand how unforgivable a man must be to drive his own daughter to patricide? Enduring all hardships was for the sake of that one thing I could never tolerate in this lifetime. Now that it has come to this, I need endure no longer. Today is the great cold. I knelt outside the Golden Hall, holding the evidence aloft. With each step, I kowtowed, forcefully presenting over a dozen charges against the Xu family. The emperor was gravely ill, and the Crown Prince was overseeing state affairs. At the Xu family's counter-accusation, he ordered me thrown into the imperial prison. They confiscated my paper and brush, so I wrote my appeal in blood. The kind-hearted jailer delivered the imperial edict. He was shot to death by a hail of arrows in the Long Street. His blood melted the frozen ice. Refugees, having somehow received the news, swarmed in. The slogan "Slay the treacherous ministers" cannot be suppressed no matter how hard they try. The Xu family's doorstep is splattered with feces and pelted with stones every day. If they dare to kill again, it would be outright slaughter of innocent lives in broad daylight. They dare not act. They cannot act. He could only hide behind the vermilion walls like a cowardly turtle. But who was Xu Zhuoyun, a born wastrel?
a spoiled young master who couldn't tolerate the slightest grievance. One day, in a drunken rage, he beat to death a scholar who had come to demand justice right there in the street. The anger of the masses is like a fire, burning ever fiercer. Now, those who guard me are exceptionally cruel. Every day, they bring me nothing but spoiled food. The weather is bitterly cold, and I almost thought I would freeze to death. But suddenly, a flash of bright red caught my eye. It was Hua Yao, dressed in full palace attire, who gave you the audacity to mistreat this princess's consort like this. She raised her horsewhip and lashed it across the jailer standing nearby. Your Highness is mistaken. How could a woman possibly become your consort? If one can marry a chicken and follow the chicken, or marry a dog and follow the dog, then why can't one marry a woman? If you don't get out of my sight this instant, I'll have your skin flayed. Hua Yao wiped the stains from my face as she wept. Changla misses her father so much when you don't come home, I chuckled softly. Then find her a real father. She glared at me and roughly pulled the cotton-padded jacket she'd brought over my head. I know you're meant for great things. Arju, we, along with Changle's biological father, will all help you. Princess Hua Yao knelt once more outside the Golden One Hall, confessing the crime of deceiving the emperor. She also revealed the true father of her child, a family honored with 3 marquis titles. Yet the entire Ling bloodline perished. The only remaining son of Marquis of Champions Ling Zhao died in that fabricated epidemic. At that time, Ling Xiao said he would marry me after delivering the soldiers' compensation silver. He was ordered to take medicinal herbs and silver to Jiangbei. Thinking he was going to save lives who knew he was marching to his death, Hua Yao wept bitterly, moving every official in the court to tears. 5 days later, chaos erupted in the Jiangbei army. The young General Cheng Ping beheaded his commander under cover of night and fled to the capital with evidence of the Shu clan's collusion amid the turbulent times. With irrefutable proof in hand, the people petitioned en masse for the extermination of the Shu clan. The emperor, clinging to his last breath, ordered the execution of the Shu clan to the 9th degree of kinship. In the same month, the other noble families voluntarily petitioned to establish relief shelters for the disaster victims. Spare no effort in assisting with the disaster relief efforts in the southern regions. Meanwhile, I, the fake consort, knelt before the imperial throne. The emperor coughed for a long while before asking in a deep voice, "You, a mere girl, dare to be so bold? This common woman knows her crime." He waved his hand. I always thought Yao was the most strong-willed among all my children. I originally intended to choose a gentle-natured consort for her. Among all the candidates in the hall, you were the only one who kept your head down. That put my mind at ease. Never thought I'd misjudged and picked the most fire-tempered one. To the point it's come to this, ***, I have failed to live up to your majesty's deep affection. The emperor laughed again. If this is what you call failing my affection, then have I not failed the support of all the people under heaven these years? But minister, do you realize you've punched quite a hole in the capital's sky? Father Emperor, Hua Qin and Hua Yao spoke in unison. I kowtowed once more. Your servant understands and submits to your majesty's judgment. Look at how my royal children both hold you in such high regard. But this capital can no longer keep you. Uprooting powerful families isn't the work of a single day, and I've offended too many people. Even if the emperor wishes to protect me, he cannot eliminate all possibilities of mishap. By imperial decree, the entire Shu family shall be executed. Shu Yushuju, daughter of the Shu clan, has deceived the throne and committed unforgivable crimes. In recognition of her past merits for the people, she shall be granted poisoned wine to preserve her corpse intact. With that, he pointed at me. As for you, Chen Yu, the promising youth from the Empress's maternal clan, you have served competently and proven yourself as our right-hand minister. You are appointed as the governor of Jiangju and shall assume office immediately. I slightly raised my eyes and promptly knelt in gratitude. Your humble servant thanks your majesty for your great favor. 3 years later, the emperor passed away, and Crown Prince Hua Qin ascended the throne. I returned to the capital with 13 to report on my duties. By chance, I met an old fisherman selling fish on the outskirts of the capital. With a smile, he gifted me a basket of red carp. I had 13 raise them. The next day, Hua Yao arrived at the temporary villa I had rented. Changle actually still recognized me. Calling me daddy with her clever little tongue, Hua Yao quickly covered her mouth. This silly girl calls every handsome man she sees daddy. That night, I gave the red carp to Changle. The little girl nestled in my arms and asked in a milky voice, "Daddy, have you come to take me and mother away? Would Lei Lei like to go with you to Jiangju by boat?" I agreed wholeheartedly. The evaluation concluded, and I received Chen Sheng's transfer order to Jiangju. A shiver ran down my spine at the thought of cleaning up his messes in the days to come. On the eve of our parting, I was invited to a banquet at the princess's residence under the guise of a distant cousin. Hua Qin was there as well. The newly crowned emperor was so busy his feet barely touched the ground. Between calling me cousin on one side and beloved minister on the other, they got me thoroughly drunk. Finally, he said, "Minister Chen, we shall soon be taking an empress. This humble subject congratulates your majesty." I cupped my hands in congratulations. Hua Qin chuckled foolishly and took another sip of wine. I bid farewell to the brother and sister. Hua Yarrow was choked with sobs. Hua Qin, dressed in casual attire, called out softly to me, "Minister Chen, be careful on your journey. You too should head back now. The mountains are high and the waters wide. We'll meet again next time. I don't know what will become in the days to come." All I could do was wave from afar, bidding farewell to those who still lingered in my thoughts at this moment. The carriage gradually disappeared into the distance. Hua Yarrow wiped her tears and after a long pause asked, "If your highness is so reluctant, why didn't you keep her?" Hua Qin pointed his fan toward the imperial palace. "The imperial city is too small to contain her. Yu Shouju's world was boundless and vast. In that case, I shall first go to Jiangju to seek her company." Hua Yarrow gently waved her round fan. "You know how stubborn Changle is. This child mustn't grow up without a father."